Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to the English Prime Podcast. I'm Aaron, and we have a new voice joining us in the studio, Ben.
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this one today.
So picture this scenario for a second. You're at, say, an industry meetup, or maybe just a casual social gathering, right?
Oh, I already know where this is going.
Right, because you've studied English for years. You know the grammar, you've got the vocabulary, you've, practiced in front of your mirror 100 times.
Yeah, you feel totally prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then someone walks up, smiles, and asks you a completely basic question. And suddenly your brain just initiates a complete factory reset.
Yep, the dreaded blank stare.
It's agonizing.
Yeah.
You're just standing there staring at them, trapped in this awful silence, while your internal voice is just screaming at you to say literally anything.
Just push any button to start, right?
Exactly. So today's deep dive is dedicated entirely to dismantling that exact moment. We're unpacking the art of starting a conversation with anyone, and specifically, we're conquering that paralyzing fear of speaking in a second language.
And that moment of sudden panic, it is incredibly common. It's usually the exact point where most people decide they just, aren't good at languages and they just retreat to the corner of the room.
Which is such a shame, because it's not true.
It's not true at all. The materials we're looking at today suggest a completely different approach. The core philosophy here is that true confidence in a second language, it doesn't actually require you to be a perfect speaker.
Right, which goes against everything we're taught in school.
Exactly. It requires a fundamental shift in how you view the interaction itself. You have to move away from seeing conversation as this, performance that you can fail.
Okay, so if it's not a performance, what is it?
It's a connection. You have to treat it as a connection you're trying to make rather than a test you have to pass.
I love that. But before we figure out how to build that kind of confidence, I feel like we need to look under the hood at what destroys it in the first place.
For sure. We have to dissect the freeze.
Right, because why does the simple act of opening our mouths to speak feel like, standing on the edge of a cliff? The sources describe this brain freeze phenomenon, but I really want to understand the mechanics.
The actual biology of it.
Yeah, what is actually happening in the brain when the mouth just refuses to hit play? It feels like an actor forgetting their lines on opening night because they're suddenly way too aware of the audience.
That is a perfect analogy, actually. It really helps to think of your brain's working memory like the RAM in a computer.
Okay, RAM, like processing power.
Right. When you're operating in a second language, you're already running some incredibly heavy background software. You're, translating concepts. You're searching your mental dictionary for the right vocabulary.
You're actively monitoring your grammar so you don't sound foolish.
Exactly. That alone takes up a massive percentage of your cognitive RAM. Then you throw social pressure into the mix.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you start running this secondary program, which is basically an internal monologue of pure fear.
Like, what if I say something weird?
Or what if I use the wrong tense? What if they can't understand my accent? Suddenly, your brain's processing capacity is completely maxed out.
The system literally crashes.
Or the system crashes.
So it's not that we forgot the English language. It's that we literally ran out of processing power because we started worrying about being judged.
Precisely.
But I got to ask, is this really just a language barrier issue?
Yeah.
Because when I think back to the times I've frozen up, it feels much heavier than just forgetting a vocabulary word.
It feels personal.
Yes, it feels like an identity crisis. You hear fluent speakers effortlessly joking around, and you suddenly get this intense imposter syndrome.
You convince yourself you don't even deserve a seat at the table.
Exactly. You just want to shrink into your chair.
Well, you're touching on the real biological root of the problem here. This isn't a linguistic failure. It's actually an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack.
Yeah. The amygdala is the ancient fear processing center of the human brain. From an evolutionary standpoint, human beings survived by staying in the tribe.
Right, safety in numbers.
Exactly. If you were judged poorly and rejected by the tribe, you were exiled. And thousands of years ago, exile basically meant death. You'd starve or get eaten by predators.
Wow, okay. So your amygdala is hardwired to view social judgment not just as awkward, but as a literal life or death physical threat.
Yes. So your brain is reacting to a networking event the exact same way it would react to a tiger jumping out of the bushes.
That is wild. A tiger at the cheese bladder.
Basically, yeah. When you look around the room and your internal narrative says, everyone here is better than me, I don't belong, your amygdala hits the panic button.
It triggers the fight, flight, or freeze response.
Exactly. Blood actually rushes away from your prefrontal cortex, which is, the logical language processing part of your brain.
Wait, really? It physically leaves that part of the brain?
It pumps into your extremities to prepare you to run away, so that blank white wall you stare into when someone asks you a question.
That's my prefrontal cortex shutting down.
Because your survival instincts completely took over.
Man, okay, so if the root of the freeze is this ancient biological fear that we're going to be judged, exiled, and eaten by a tiger, how on earth do we shut that alarm off?
Well, the sources suggest we have to completely redefine our concept of confidence.
Redefine it how? Like taking off a heavy backpack of expectations.
That's a great way to put it. We have to decouple confidence from perfection. Society gives us this deeply flawed template of what a confident speaker looks like.
Oh, for sure. We picture someone who uses flawless vocabulary, never stumbles over their words.
Always has a charismatic, witty comeback ready to go. But real, sustainable confidence isn't about having perfect grammar.
What is it about then?
It's the internal acceptance that you are absolutely going to make mistakes, and that those mistakes do not diminish your value or your right to take up space in the room.
That is a huge mental shift.
It is, and this brings us to a really fascinating psychological concept mentioned in the research. It's the secret that kind of breaks the illusion of the perfect speaker.
Ooh, tell me.
Everyone else in that room, including the native speakers who seem so intimidating, they are intensely focused on themselves.
Oh, right, because we always assume they're staring at us.
In psychology, this is called the spotlight effect. Because we're the center of our own universe, our brains naturally assume that everyone else is paying close attention to our actions and our flaws.
We feel like there's a literal spotlight shining on us.
Exactly. But the reality is, everyone else is the protagonist in their own movie, too. They're worrying about the pitch of their own voice, whether they have spinach in their teeth, or, what clever thing they're going to say next.
They're definitely not sitting there analyzing my preposition usage.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They are completely absorbed in their own performance. And once you realize the audience isn't actually judging you because they're too busy judging themselves, you can make that critical shift.
You stop trying to deliver an award-winning performance, and you just focus on connecting with another human being.
Yes. There's a mantra in the source material for this exact shift, which is, no one is above me, and I'm not above anyone else. We're all just people trying to connect.
When you internalize that, the tiger disappears.
The amygdala calms down.
Okay, I love that. That philosophy sounds beautiful when we're just sitting here in the studio analyzing it. But let's apply it to the real world. Say I'm standing by the coffee machine at work. A colleague I barely know walks up, looks right at me, and asks, "So what did you get up to this weekend?"
The classic small talk ambush.
Exactly. And in that split second, the spotlight effect kicks in, my RAM crashes, and my mind goes completely blank. Mantras do not save me when I have 2 seconds to answer. I need a practical, in-the-moment fix.
That's completely fair. Theory without tactics leaves you stranded. So let's look at the actionable toolkit the sources provide.
Let's do it.
The very first mechanism is called the mental check. And this actually happens before you ever enter the break room or the networking event.
So prep work.
Yes. You preload your working memory. Think of it as putting up a little bit of scaffolding. You select one simple, low-stakes topic to share before you even leave your house.
Okay, give me an example.
It could be a new cafe you tried, a frustrating traffic jam you sat in, or maybe a documentary you just watched.
So when the colleague ambushes me at the coffee machine, I don't have to desperately search my brain for an interesting story while under pressure.
Exactly.
I just reach into the toolbox and pull out the traffic jam story.
You're bypassing the cognitive overload. The decision of what to say has already been made in a low-stress environment.
Which leaves all my brain power available to handle the delivery of the story.
Yes, in the high-stress environment.
I mean, that makes sense. It's like putting training wheels on your conversation skills until you find your balance. But wait, doesn't preparing conversation topics in advance feel a bit robotic?
How do you mean?
Like, if I'm preparing my weekend anecdotes before I even step out my front door, aren't I just trading one performance for another? How do I prepare without losing my authenticity?
It's a really common concern, but it actually misunderstands how authenticity works under pressure. Preparation doesn't destroy authenticity, it actually protects it.
Protects it? How?
Well, think about it. When you're in a state of panic, your true, authentic personality is entirely suppressed by anxiety. You're stiff, you avoid eye contact, your voice gets tight.
True. I am definitely not my best self when I'm panicking.
Right. So by having a prepared topic, those training wheels you mentioned, you lower the cognitive load. Because you aren't frantically searching for a topic, you're free to actually smile, read their body language, and express your genuine personality.
Oh, I see. The prepared topic is just the vehicle, but my authenticity is the driver.
Exactly. The preparation lowers the panic, so the real you is actually allowed to show up.
That makes a lot of sense. But what if I didn't prepare? What if I'm caught completely off guard in a random environment?
Then you use the icebreaker strategy. The mechanism here relies on using your immediate shared environment to spark a connection, rather than trying to pull a brilliant opening line out of thin air.
Okay, so using what's around us.
Yeah. The sources give a highly relatable example, which is, say you're stuck waiting in a remarkably slow, long line for coffee.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. Instead of pulling out your phone to avoid eye contact, you look at the person next to you and observe the shared reality. You say, wow, it feels like we're waiting for concert tickets, not coffee.
I like that. That shifts the dynamic instantly.
Yeah.
You aren't forcing them into some complex interview about their lives.
Exactly. You're making an observation about the world you're both currently trapped in.
It puts you both on the same team.
And notice the simplicity of the language. You don't need fancy sentences or complex structures to make an observation.
It's just small talk.
But we often dismiss small talk as meaningless. Neurologically, small talk is the key that unlocks the door to deeper connection. It proves to both of your brains that the interaction is safe.
And for the listener who still feels awkward doing this,
The only way to stop feeling awkward is to push straight through the awkwardness. Every time you risk a simple hello or an observation about the coffee line and you don't get rejected, you are literally rewiring your amygdala.
you're training your brain to stop treating social interactions like a threat.
Exactly.
Okay, so we survived the initial contact. The ice is broken, the amygdala has realized there is no tiger, and the conversation is officially happening.
The hardest part is over.
But now we face the second hurdle. How do we keep the dialogue alive without feeling that agonizing pressure to constantly generate new entertaining things to say?
Yes. The mid-conversation slump.
Right. The counterintuitive advice from the deep dive material is that the secret to keeping a conversation going isn't figuring out what to say next. It's fundamentally changing how we listen.
This requires a massive paradigm shift, especially for language learners who spend, all their time focused on output vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation.
We're conditioned to think conversation is all about speaking.
We are. But if you observe most people in any language, they aren't actually listening to the person in front of them.
They're just listening to reply.
Yes. They're waiting for the other person's mouth to stop moving so they can launch into their own story.
It's like they're just using the other person's talking time to rehearse their own next line.
Exactly. Real connection, however, demands listening with intent. This means shifting your focus entirely away from your own internal monologue and channeling all your attention into understanding the other person's reality.
It's like listening to the rhythm and emotion of a song rather than just reading the lyrics on a page.
That's a great way to think about it. You stop translating dictionary definitions in your head and you start reading the room, not just the dictionary. You listen to the subtext, the tone of their voice, the emotion behind their words.
Okay, but for the listener who is dreading a Monday morning Zoom meeting right now, how do they practically apply this? If they're struggling just to keep up with the speed of the English being spoken, how do they listen for emotional subtext?
You lean on a highly effective psychological tool called mirroring.
Mirroring. Okay, how does that work?
Mirroring is a technique where you build instant rapport by reflecting back the emotional core of what someone just shared with you.
Give me an example.
Imagine a colleague is telling you about a really stressful project. If you're just listening to reply, you might wait for a pause and then say, yeah, my project is really stressful too.
Which immediately steals the spotlight back.
Right. But if you use mirroring, you reflect their reality. You say, wow, it sounds like you've been carrying the weight of this whole launch on your shoulders.
Wow. You're validating their experience before you introduce your own. But wait, if I just rely on reflecting back what the other person says, don't I risk sounding like a creepy parrot? Like if someone says, I went to Italy, and I just say, you went to Italy, where is the balance between actively listening and actively contributing my own thoughts?
That is the trap. Mirroring only becomes a parrot routine if you treat it as the final destination.
Okay, so what's the proper way?
The proper way to use mirroring is as a bridge. You mirror to prove you understand, and then you immediately cross that bridge to contribute your own curiosity or perspective.
Okay, show me the bridge with the Italy example.
So they say they went to Italy, you mirror, so you finally took that trip to Italy. That proves you were paying attention. Then you cross the bridge. I remember you planning that for months. Did it live up to the hype in person?
You validate their reality, and then you open the door slightly wider, inviting them to elaborate.
Exactly. It shifts language learning from just memorizing vocabulary to practicing emotional intelligence.
And that takes an immense amount of pressure off the listener. You don't have to invent a brilliant original thought out of nowhere. You're just pulling the thread of the information they already handed you.
You are co-creating the conversation based on their input.
It transforms the interaction from a solo performance where all the pressure is on you into a collaborative dance where both people are sharing the cognitive load.
Beautifully said.
All right, so we've successfully stepped off the stage, broken the ice with an environmental observation, and we've used mirroring to build a genuine connection. We're having a great conversation.
We're nailing it.
We really are.
Yeah.
But eventually, the laws of physics apply. The interaction runs its course.
They always do.
You start repeating the same points, or you literally just need to get back to your desk to do your job. The final hurdle is the art of the exit. Knowing how to escape without ruining the connection you just built.
And the exit is where the majority of people stumble. It is a massive, often ignored component of social confidence.
I always feel like a gymnast trying to stick the landing. Like, a great routine is easily forgotten if you stumble and fall over at the very end.
That is so true. Because we're terrified of the potential awkwardness of ending an interaction, we tend to execute one of two terrible strategies.
Let me guess. We either vanish or we linger forever.
Bingo! We either perform the fade away, where we just quietly vanish the second the other person looks at their phone, which, leaves them feeling totally dismissed.
Oh.
Or we cling to the conversation way too long. We let the silences become unbearable, draining all the positive energy out of the room until someone finally awkwardly shuffles away.
It all comes down to the psychological principle of the recency effect, right? People remember the last thing that happens the most vividly.
Exactly. You can have a fantastic, engaging 10-minute chat, but if the last 30 seconds are an agonizing, awkward silence where neither of you knows how to leave, that awkwardness is the only thing they'll remember about you.
So you have to end it cleanly, with grace and kindness, to leave a positive final impression.
Yes. You preserve the connection by being warm, but highly definitive. You set a boundary, and you wrap it in appreciation.
Okay, what does that sound like in English?
The sources provide some excellent, simple exit phrases that you can memorize. Phrases like, "It's been great talking to you, I should get going." Or offering a specific boundary, "I'm going to grab a coffee, but it was nice catching up."
So question on this. Is it better to invent a polite excuse to soften the blow? For example, looking at your watch and pretending you have an urgent meeting, or saying you need to make a phone call? Or is it actually more confident to just be direct and say you're leaving?
The most confident exit is the one that requires the absolute least amount of justification.
Really? No fake phone calls?
No fake phone calls. When you start inventing elaborate fake excuses, people can subconsciously sense the deception. The energy shifts, your body language gets tense, and the exit feels anxious and forced.
That makes total sense.
Confident individuals do not over-explain their boundaries. Looking at someone with a genuine smile and saying, "It was wonderful to meet you, I'm going to mingle a bit more," is direct, honest, and entirely polite.
You're showing respect for their time and for your own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The warmth comes from your tone and your eye contact, not from fabricating a fake emergency to escape.
That is incredibly liberating. You don't have to perform a theatrical exit or invent a crisis. You just kindly and directly close the loop.
Exactly.
Let's bring all of this together. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, remember that mastering conversation, especially in a language that is not your native tongue, is entirely about progress, not perfection.
We have charted a complete neurological and social journey today. It begins with recognizing that amygdala hijack and refusing to view yourself as an imposter on a stage.
Then it moves into preloading your cognitive RAM and using your shared environment to break the ice naturally.
It deepens by shifting your focus from your internal fears to listening with intent and mirroring the other person's reality.
And it concludes with setting definitive, warm boundaries to close the loop politely.
Every single time you apply these tools, every time you choose to push through the brain freeze and initiate a conversation, you are doing reps in a social gym.
You're building those social muscles.
Yes.
Yes.
You are proving to your nervous system that the room is actually safe.
And remember, failure and grammatical mistakes do not hurt nearly as much as the quiet regret of sitting in silence all night. Your English belongs to you.
It absolutely does.
It's a bridge meant for connecting with the world, not a standardized test you're constantly trying to pass. The more you show up and risk the initial clunkiness, the faster your brain realizes that survival on the other side of that awkwardness is what builds authentic, unshakable confidence.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, to wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, a concept that kind of flips everything we've discussed completely upside down.
Lay it on me.
We established early on that true confidence is built on the realization of the spotlight effect, right? The fact that everyone else is just as nervous, self-conscious, and worried about their own performance as you are.
Right. They're all desperately trying to hide their anxiety.
So what would happen if you stopped trying to hide yours? What if, in your very next conversation, you were completely transparent about your nervousness? Could raw vulnerability actually be the ultimate icebreaker?
Wow.
Imagine walking up to someone, looking them in the eye, smiling, and saying, "Hi, I'm trying to practice my English, and I'm honestly a little nervous, but I just wanted to come over and say hello."
By doing that, you completely shatter the illusion of the stage. When you drop your mask and admit you're nervous, you instantly give the other person psychological permission to drop their mask too.
The stage is an illusion we create in our own minds.
Yeah.
Step off it, embrace the nerves, and just say hi. Until next time.